welcome to Emma's ESL English. Today we are looking at idioms related to guts. Fun! I had a class last week and we had this conversation about guts. And I realized, wow, we talk about guts a lot in English. And I don't think it always translates particularly well. When I watch my Chinese dramas, they talk about feeling how something happens in their heart. Some people talk about it in their soul. So I think the place where these things happen is different. But in English, it's almost always your gut. So when we talk about your gut, we mean your stomach, your intestines. That area is your gut. And we have this idea that your gut is going to tell you what is the right or wrong thing to do. But we use this in a variety of different ways. So, for example, our first idiom, we can say, follow your gut. We could also say follow your intuition or follow your instinct. They all mean the same thing. That feeling inside you that says, I should do this thing, we're trusting that feeling and we're following our gut. This ties in with the second one, to trust your gut. We can use this in a few different ways. We can trust our gut, we can go with our gut, and we can have a gut decision. Like I said, we use gut a lot in English, it turns out. All of these kind of mean the same thing. We're trusting our gut. We're going with our gut. We're having a gut decision. It all means that we're using our intuition. Something inside us is saying you should do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you should go that way. And we're not really using common sense or a map or anything like that. We're just trusting what our instinct is telling us. Okay, so another way that we use guts is to talk about being brave about something, having courage and being brave about something. This is another one where we have a lot of idioms to talk about it. Somebody might say, wow, I can't believe you had the guts to say that. So maybe you stood up in class and you explained something, or you told the teacher they were wrong, and afterwards someone said, I can't believe you had the guts to do that. To have the guts means that you're brave. You are strong enough to stand up in a difficult situation. We can say exactly the same thing. That was so gutsy. Gutsy. G-U-T-S-Y. Again, we can talk about a person being gutsy. We can talk about it as like a personality trait. And we can talk about it in relation to an action that you just did. And all of them mean that you are brave. In some cases, we might add, I can't decide if you're gutsy or stupid. We've heard that sometimes in movies where people aren't sure. Are you being brave or are you just being stupid? We also use this in the opposite sense. We tell people you haven't got the guts. So, come on, let's fight. You haven't got the guts to fight me. Meaning you're not brave enough to do something. And we can also talk about other people and some kind of action we can imagine happening or we think should happen. We could say it takes guts to do that. You have to be brave to be able to do that. That's usually some kind of compliment to someone, to say it takes guts to do that. We also use our gut to judge certain situations. So we could have a gut reaction. That's really similar to going back to that idea of intuition. It's kind of the bad side of the intuition. So we could use our guts, follow our guts in a positive situation. We could also have a gut reaction, meaning we're like, ooh, for something. I don't know if that sound effect worked. Meaning that when we see something, we have an immediate reaction to that. We can't hide that reaction. And we talk about that being a gut reaction. Let's say somebody sees an accident happening and they rush out and they save a person, and everybody says afterwards, wow, that took guts to do that. I can't believe you did that. They could say, I didn't really think about it. It was just a gut reaction. It means they weren't logically thinking, if I jump in front of this car to save this child, I will die. They just did it. Immediately, they just did it. So it was a gut reaction. We have a few other ways that we use guts. We can use it in a really bad way. If we really don't like someone, it's a little bit childish, but we can say, I hate your guts. Of course, we can just say, I hate you. But if someone says, I hate your guts, it's exactly the same thing. They're just using an idiom to explain how much they hate you. We can also talk about something being gut-wrenching. So if you think about when you see something awful happen, it feels like something bad is happening in your stomach, right? It feels like your stomach jumps or twists or something like that. We can say that's gut-wrenching. So we usually use this for a really sad situation. That's probably the most common time. Sometimes it's a really scary thing that ended in something bad happening, like somebody died or somebody got badly hurt. Did you see that movie? Yeah, it was gut-wrenching. I remember going to the movies when I lived in Korea to watch P.S. I Love You. What an idiot. I thought I was going to go and watch a romantic comedy. I wouldn't have minded. I clearly chose a bad time. The whole cinema was packed. And I was sitting right on the edge of one of the rows. And the whole cinema was filled with all of these couples madly in love with each other. And of course, it's in Korea. So the whole thing is subtitled in Korean. What happens is everybody's laughing at the jokes a couple seconds after they happen because they have to read it. So I'm there chuckling away by myself to the jokes. But also, if you've ever watched P.S. I Love You, you will know it is not a jokey movie. While there are some funny moments, there is an awful lot of tears involved in that movie. So I ended up crying my eyes out on the edge of this cinema row. Everybody's looking at me. Clearly some things had got lost in translation, and also some things were happening. They hadn't caught up with me yet, so they're all wondering why I'm crying. It was a gut-wrenching movie. It's a really gut-wrenching movie. It's very sad. Anyway, two more. I've got two more. First one, when you are working really, really hard, you can say you're slogging your guts out. So somebody who, worked really, really hard to pass an exam, they could say, I slogged my guts out for that exam. And one more, which will make no sense whatsoever to most of you. This is a fairly common idiom. The whole thing is, I'm going to have your guts for garters. Garters are a thin piece of elastic material that women would put at the top of their stocking. In the days that we wore stockings, not tights, they were used to hold up your stockings. So anyway, back to having your guts for garters. This is when someone is really angry with you and they're saying they're going to punish you in some way. Sometimes mums might say this to their kids if their kids were misbehaving. I don't know why it's so common. Think about your own idioms. I'd love to know if you can think of any. I think it's pretty common in English for us to have idioms where we really don't think about what does that mean, literally. We just know the idiom is what it is. And sometimes, as I said in a previous podcast, the word has changed and evolved over time, so it's not even what the original word was. This is, the evolution of idioms. It's kind of fun. Anyway, that's it. We're done. Gut idioms. Very fun. I like them. If there are any other words that you can think of that have all of these different kinds of idioms, I'm happy to do a podcast on them. You can drop me an email at emmaseSlenglish@gmail.com. And you can head over to the blog at emmaseslenglish.com where you'll have all of these idioms written down, and I'll put some fun pictures on there too so you can understand what's going on. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's lovely to talk to you. I will talk to you again next week on Tuesday. Thank you and good night. Bye.